Hello, everybody. Welcome to this recorded version. Getting back on the Monday slate here, getting on the Monday routine. Lost that last week, but I'm making back up for it this particular Monday. Going to talk about the stories of the weekend that broke in the wild world of sports here. Michael Jordan, how about that? Michael Jordan's race car team wins a Daytona 500. And the NBA All Star break is upon us, and more talk about the problems with the league than the actual All Star break as they continue to slide on the American depth chart of interest for sports fans. I'll talk about that and what to do. Adam Silver still making excuses. A lot of, say, Utah. That was another team that were actually fined for tanking. And also, Joey Aguilar, his story continues. Trinidad James both got granted permission to play by local judges as the battle to play with the NCAA continues. And Texas Tech in the college basketball world, I tell you what, Texas Tech is the most interesting team that I've seen in a long time due to their very difficult schedule. Got a big win this weekend over number one Arizona. So stand by. We'll take our first and only break, and I will ramble through those topics real quickly here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. Okay, we'll start off with this. The NBA All-Star break, more talk about teams being fined for tanking, bad dunk contest, and now ratings dip below college basketball. Every year this time, it just seems like that whether it's taking too many threes in the NBA, it is load management. Now we have teams being fined for obvious tanking purposes. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about Draymond Green openly racist comment towards an NBA official. Nothing being done about that. Before that, we talked about Steve Kerr making political statements on an NBA stage, driving a wedge in half of your fan base. It's just on and on and on again. Lack of hand checking, just lack of effort, lack of simply not giving, I believe, the players the body language that they show in this league. And, of course, Adam Silver just sitting on his hands. But here's what he had to say about maybe the analytics playing a part in this tanking. Here's somebody asking him a question about it. Listen up.
I think what we're seeing is modern analytics where it's so clear that the incentives are misaligned. I think when you maybe to further answer your question, are we seeing behavior that is worse this year than we've seen in recent memory? Yes, is my view, and which was what led to those fines.
Yes. Okay. Now there was reports, and I couldn't find the clip, but I read offline. There's reports that he would consider doing away with the draft. This particular draft coming up, you've got players this is supposed to be a more talented, more deeper draft than the next two drafts, is what Adam Silver went on to say. So he is well aware of that. So okay. So he speaks up when it's obvious. This is going back to my notes here. He speaks up when it's obvious. He doesn't speak on the fact that not unless it's overly obvious when you've got the political stuff written on the court. Now that's going back to the 2020. But all this ties in, though, folks. I mentioned the Draymond Green racist remarks towards the official. But he has to do this because, listen, the ratings are below college. They're NFL, forget it. We are no NFL's king. But we've also talked about the fact that they're below college football. They're below Major League Baseball. Baseball's been in the toilet for years, but with the changes Major League Baseball has done, the really hard changes, the uncomfortable changes of adding the pitch clock, eliminating shifts and whatnot, really speeding up the game. That has put them above the NBA. And now, recently, college basketball this particular year, college basketball has beaten the NBA. So the NBA is just above the NHL. I mean, they're right in the toilet for local ratings. And the fact that they've got this new streaming deal and TV deal, they're basically just taking their local, kind of like the NFL in one perspective, they're taking their base fans for granted here, So I made some notes here, and it's the usual. It is the usual. Let me get to my notes here. Like I said, they need non-guaranteed contracts to make these players have more incentive. I would make it at least 2 years out of high school, or 2 to 3 years out of high school, or 21. Now that has helped for players minimum because of the NIL. You've got more players coming in now. One player's trying to get back into college. Remember that with the player from Alabama. So that part has helped. But there is some hope. I mean, you look at guys like Victor Wembanyama and the story of the Spurs. He's fun to watch. You look at players like a local a United States product, you want to say, in the Cooper Flag, but they have to address these particular issues. I would bring back some form of hand checking. And he even mentioned, like I said a few minutes ago, he even mentioned the fact that do away with the draft all around. Do away with the draft all around and let the rookies choose who they want to play for. Something of that nature would be interesting to try to keep this game more competitive. You got guys that are NBA sycophants who just love the NBA. Like Bill Simmons says, maybe you should shorten the season to 70 games. I say something like that would be interesting because the more players are getting hurt, but not non-guaranteed contracts, a strong hard cap system, kind of like the NFL would help. You can move players around that way. I kind of like the fact that they have this apron system where it keeps you from building super teams there. I guess that would be a little bit more, but obviously you have to have, I think they have a salary cap floor. I haven't looked into that, but you just want players caring, and you also do not want you want the concentration to be on the game itself and make it super, super competitive, where there is incentive to actually winning basketball games. Come down to, there's been talk about tournament for teams that are trying to get in the lottery there to play it out to win that first overall pick. All that should be on the table, to keep players, to keep this competitive, to make people just do their job, man. Make the coaches coach. All that stuff should be into, because there's an obvious problem here. It just looks like they don't care. Nobody really mentioned the fact that Kevin Durant was traded to the Wizards for, I don't know if that was for financial purposes or business purposes. It definitely wasn't basketball purposes this year. They're one of the last place teams in the league, but he completely shuts down. I mean, the fans in Washington, you don't get to see this guy. Even though your team traded for him, He shuts down because of his air quote injury. You know, how much are you? You're not allowed to question injuries in the NBA. It's just a lot of that going on in the NBA that really turns fans off. You know, a lot of that entitlement turns fans off. I find myself pulling for some of the international players because they seem to care more. You know, and some of them even get complacent. Look at the Luka Doncic showing up out of shape every year. He had to be traded for him to finally wise up and say, "Hey, you are a professional. Come ready to work." I have to come ready to work. I still wear a uniform at work. I have to be on time for my pickups. You know, that should be incentivized. You show up to work, you get paid. You want to loaf around and not show up to work and properly ready to work, you don't get paid. That's the bottom line in the NBA. You know, another All-Star break, another list of complaints, and Silver just sits on his hands. Let's see what he does. He talks a big game. I've liked some of the stuff he's done. I like the effort, but now it's just stop coddling players. Stop trying to basically just coddle players. I mean, you know, hey, listen, remind them that they're professionals. Talk about how depressed they are and all that. Hey, listen, man, show up to do your job. Some of us don't feel good emotionally and stuff like that. We still have to go to work too. Okay. All right. So that's the NBA. Another All-Star break, another list of complaints. All right. Okay. The college game. Listen, it was a great game. These college games have been great. Like I said, the commissioner just said over the weekend that this is going to be one of the most interesting, this is the most talented NBA drafts in a long time. A lot of these guys are in college here, and I can't think of the guy's name here. I'll think of it here. Carlos Boozer's son is playing for the Duke Blue. He's one of the players that's going to be eligible. He's playing well. That he's going to be one of the top picks in the NBA draft, guys like that. But anyways, great game over the weekend. Texas Tech, you know, this team has the hardest. I was like, man, Texas Tech, they got 6 losses, but man, every game I see them play, they come up with a big win. I saw them a few weeks ago beat top 9. Remember, Houston was in a national championship game last year, and they're playing like a top 5, top 8 team this year, a team that could very well get back in the Final Four. They beat them a few weeks ago. But Saturday, they went on the road and beat number 1 Arizona. Now, I know that Arizona did lose on the road to Kansas earlier this week, but still, going on the road in Tucson, Texas Tech overtime win and beat out number 1 Arizona. They're, like I said, they have the most difficult schedule in the country. They beat Duke this year. They beat Houston, and now they beat Arizona. But they got 6 losses. You know, they did lose to Arkansas. But listen, hey, Arkansas, they're going to bring in good players under their coach there. His name is slipping my mind. But either way, the most difficult schedule in the NBA, in the NCAA. Going to be an interesting to see with those 6 losses. Maybe if they win their conference there, win their conference tournament, possibly get a higher seed. I don't know about a 1, maybe a 2, but they're you know, I was listening to that game, and they mentioned the fact, broadcaster there mentioned the fact that 92% of their points come from their starting 5. So, particular, this guy JT Toppin, him coming about here. I mean, he's just a big game player with putbacks and whatnot. They're power forward there. If you can keep him healthy, this team can go on a Final Four run. If you can keep him healthy, well, obviously, but keep him out of foul trouble. He'll be an interesting guy to follow once we get time into the tournament there. Now, I was thinking about Coach Calipari, the name I was trying to think of earlier, that coaches for Arkansas and all the great players he puts in. Now, they don't always play up to par because he's had problems getting guys coached up in time to, you know, learn the fundamentals like hitting free throws in big games and whatnot. But But they lost games like that early in the season to an Arkansas. But they're one of the most interesting teams. Not a deep team. Not if they could keep their main guys out of healthy and out of foul trouble, they could be a Final Four team to watch here coming up. And this is going to be, like last year, one of the more interesting tournaments. And again, this is outdrawing the NBA. So it's a better product right now. The crowds are into it. The guys are playing hard. They're playing defense. They're boxing out. They're hand checking. It's a good product. Love it. Love college basketball. Right now, it's the best it's been in a very long time, in my particular opinion. Okay. If not ever, with the NIL bringing in guys that could play overseas professionally, and now they're coming to our colleges, and they're getting the proper marketing here. So that's another bright spot for the NBA. Just embrace it, NBA. Okay? Stop coddling guys and giving them money for nothing, for not performing. Okay. Had to take one more dig at the NBA before I left. But I speak for a lot of people, a lot of traditional fans that come from the Jordan era, which there was more talk about Michael Jordan's race car team. I forgot to leave that part out. His race car driver, he owns the team. His driver won the NASCAR's biggest race, the Daytona 500. That's another dig there at the everything is your Ryan Clarks, your Jamel Hills of the world. The everything is racist crowd, which is considered a Southern, pardon my redneck sport. You got a guy that used to play in the NBA, hit the team that he owns, won the biggest race, the Daytona 5. Now, Jordan, he said, listen, this is great, but I want to win the championship. He wants to win that points championship. So maybe the United States is not racist. Maybe people are just trying to make money and political power off of spreading that false narrative. So kudos to Michael Jordan and his team for winning the most popular NASCAR race, the Daytona 500. Okay? All right. Now, college football, very interesting story, bubbling over with the Trinidad Chambliss granted permission to play in a Mississippi courtroom. He was suing the NCAA for another year of eligibility. Same thing Friday. It might have been Thursday. I think it was Friday, though. Joey Aguilar, the Tennessee quarterback, granted eligibility to play for Tennessee. Now, this is going to get these are obviously going to get appealed by the NCAA. But here's the big question here. Two different stories, but somewhat similar. They want to. A lot of it is junior college. Okay, Aguilar's argument with Tennessee is that junior college does not count, and I looked into that. Okay, no NFL quarterback has ever been drafted. And I looked this up. You can look it up, and the Google AI, they don't check one source. It's multiple sources here. No junior college quarterback has ever been drafted directly out of junior college into the NFL, okay? Because it's considered developmental. No Heisman Trophy winner has been voted on for the Heisman directly out of junior college. Now, you said, what about who's it? Cam Newton. Now, he was a junior college transfer. He was a junior college transfer to Auburn. Then he won the Heisman out of Auburn. Listen, I went to college. I had to take developmental classes in college because I didn't do well in my ACT. I went to a crappy public school here in Nashville, Tennessee area. But that's a me problem. That being said, those development hours that I paid for, that I took at Austin Peay, they did not count towards my major. Junior college is considered developmental, folks. It should not count as years of eligibility. Okay, so that's the argument. Well, and then the NCAA will say, well, what about the 18-year-old? You're taking away from the 18-year-old. Well, wasn't that 18-year-old Joey Aguilar or Trinidad Chambliss? Okay, wasn't those guys? Those players would be developmental marginal players, below marginal developmental players for scholarships. They can go the same route. They can go the same route that Chambliss did, and Aguilar went. There's other schools needing players, okay? There's other colleges needing players. So this would take away from the fact that all the players will go to the Power 5 schools. No, it'll spread the talent out more. Look, we've had Indiana win the national championship. A lot of those guys come over from the smaller school that Cignetti brought over from was it James Madison. All those guys came from James Madison. Well, James Madison needs players too, right? You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of a lame rule. Let's accept the fact that it is what it is, okay? This is antitrust at its best here. You know, the Athletic pointed out the numbers here, if I can find them real quick. It pointed out the numbers of why these guys are fighting so hard. They're fighting so hard to get back into college. Chambliss, for example, who's saying his argument was that the Ole Miss quarterback was, hey, listen, I needed another medical red shirt out of junior college. Well, or out of this other, I think it was a junior. But either way, the NCAA says, we don't have any proof that you didn't play. Well, but you don't have any proof that he did play. So won't you just give him the benefit of the doubt and let this young man earn some money, okay? This is what the Athletic says. The Athletic, their draft experts had Chambliss pegged as a third round where contracts start at $1.3 million range in year one, plus $1.5 million to $1.7 million signing bonus. At Ole Miss, he's expected to make $5 to $6 million this season between revenue sharing and outside NIL deals. Meanwhile, they said Aguilar's attorney said his lawsuit has a deal from Tennessee for $2 million this season. Not bad, considered he's no guarantee to even be drafted. Both have a chance to improve their stock with another year in the SEC, especially Chambliss, who played in only one season FBS level. He'll be 24 by the time of the 27 draft, but not necessarily deterrent. First-round picks, Bo Nix, Michael Penix were both 24 years old. I want to say that Cam Ward is 23 last year out of Tennessee, and he looked pretty sharp, even though he was on a bad team here. He was a transfer player. So, yeah, that's the whole antitrust, trying to prevent people from making money with your rules and regulations, considering the fact that this, the cat's already out of the bag here. These universities, through different revenue streams, want to compensate these young men and their family, and you want to hold them back over some minutia, okay? You really have to look at it from that perspective. I hope that both play, not because, hey, listen, I'm out of Tennessee area and I'm out of the SEC region. I just hope that these players get their opportunity to play, because I think that junior college is considered developmental and should not count as years of eligibility for the reasons I just stated. Okay? All right, folks, if you like the show, share the show. I'll be back live Wednesday. I'm going to try to bring my man Keith Ingalls in from TGI Sports here. Keith was out of the country last time I requested him to come on, get his thoughts on the Patriots and where they are, their Super Bowl loss, and get his take on some of these college sports issues that we're having, and how bad has the NBA really fallen. So, all right, folks, I'll be back live, but make sure and watch the replays. I'll replay all the good shows here, something you may have missed. And, of course, I'll share a few clips here and there from the time I get a chance to make them and cut them. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you live Wednesday at normal time, here on the Real